Hello, good morning, good afternoon. How are you doing today, Village? It's good to see you guys again. It's good to talk to you guys. Welcome to Black Mental Health. We are the YouTube channel where we focus on mental health, mental awareness, and how it affects the Black community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving us just a little bit of your time. We really appreciate and value you. Do me a favor before we get started, like the video. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be good for you. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to be bringing you videos weekly over the course of the entire year, just to talk about mental health, emotional wellness, just so we can be a better version of ourselves. So we're going to do that. We're going to be consistent. We also have a Facebook channel, Black Mental Health. We have a Facebook channel where there are more than 3,000 people who have joined the group, where we provide and give positive information. We give resources on mental health, emotional health, and wellness. We talk about all these difficult things that sometimes we don't like to talk about, right? Maybe in our families or in our small communities or friendship circles, but we're going to talk about them there because it's important. Why? Because you're important. So let's jump in it today, right? Let's jump into it. Well, again, let me tell you, my name is Harold Rayfield. I'm a licensed professional counselor and therapist in the states of Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, also a life coach. And so I'm your moderator. I'm your host for the channel. I'm going to be bringing you this information. So welcome. Glad to have you here. You know, it takes a village, so we're going to get to it. Okay, so let's do that, right? So back to the work. Today, we are only a few days from a very important day, right? We know that Valentine's Day, February 14th, is right around the corner. And so I thought it would be appropriate if we just took a few minutes just to talk about Valentine's Day and what that means, right? And so when you talk about Valentine's Day, what's the first word that comes to mind? What's the first thought that comes to mind when you think about Valentine's Day? Go ahead and put a word or leave a comment in the chat, in the comments down below. Tell me what word immediately comes to mind when you think about Valentine's Day. For me, the word that I think about, most of us probably are going to say love, right? And so what does that mean to us? And so love is really a complicated thing, right? It's a complicated word, complicated concept. And so I just wanted to just share a couple of brief thoughts with you about what that means, all right? And so when we talk about what love is, let's talk about the definition, right? So if you just Google, search the word love, you're gonna see the definition. It says love is an intense feeling of deep affection, right? It also says love as a noun, it is a great interest and pleasure in something, right? And so you're also gonna see the verb definition, which says that love is something when you feel deep affection for someone or somebody. So that's love, right? That's the definition. I would argue, I did a little bit of research and that I found that there are 8 different types of love according to the Greek language, right? So when you look up love, it's in the Greek word, there are 8 different types of love. And so of that, there are 4 of them that are really, really important to think about, right? So the first one is going to be family love, right? So it is the love, the affection, the care that an individual gets from their family. So family love is one type of love. A second type of love is friendship love, right? And so friendship can be love that is shared between 2 people, 2 individuals. The third main type of love is spiritual love, right? And that provides a sense of meaning, comfort, a bigger picture, a bigger context of who we are in the grand scheme of things. So there's a spiritual love. And then also the fourth, probably most important one, there's also self-love. So self-love, family love, spiritual love, friendship love, those are the 4 major types or major components of love. There are 4 other ones, but they kind of go in a little bit different direction. And so when you think about what that means to you, what do you think about? When you think about your family love, how would you describe that? Your family relationships, would you describe them as loving? When you think about your friendships, would you describe them as caring, supportive, loving, right? When you think about your spiritual foundation, spiritual relationships, your spiritual understanding, is there love there? Have you developed a spiritual love that provides a meaning for your life, right? And then, of course, there's the self. What do you think about yourself, right? So that's the definition of love. We gave you a basic one. You can Google it. You can see it. There are 8 different types of love according to the Greek language. 4 of those which are very important in the context of who we are on a daily basis, right? Family, friends, spiritual, self-love. I want to give you 2 things, right? 2 things love is not, right? Most of the time we think or believe that love is a feeling. And I'm going to disagree with a lot of you out there, according to my pastor, in research. There's a lot of information out there that says love is not necessarily a feeling, but instead love is a choice. Think about that for a minute, right? So instead of it being something on the inside that you feel about somebody or passionate about an activity, I love sports or I love the game, that's not a feeling. Oftentimes we connect it with something we feel on the inside, but potentially it's not a feeling because love is a choice. I choose to love you. I choose to deal with you. That's one option. The second option I want to talk to you about, which you guys, we've talked about a lot in relationship love, right? And that is that love is not a noun. It's not a thing. Love is action, right? And that's important to remember because if you love somebody and you care about somebody, then you can't just say it because it's not a thing. So you can't just say it. It's not necessarily a noun. Oh, I have love for you. Oh, I love you. I care about you, right? You mean this much to me. It's not necessarily a noun. More importantly, it is an action, right? Love is not necessarily always a noun, but more so it is a verb. It's an action. It's something that you can see. If you can't put your eyes on it, maybe that's not love that what you're dealing with a person who you believe you care about. Maybe the thing between you two is not love, but something different. Maybe it's codependency, right? Maybe it is passion. Maybe it's romantic love, eros. Maybe it's not eros, but you know what I mean, right? Maybe it's romantic love, and it's something that passion that you feel, but between somebody you feel you really care about, and it has to do with sexual intimacy and yearning, all of those wonderful things, right? So maybe it's more of that, but true love is not a thing. That's something you give. It's something you do. It's something that you show. And so when you think about that, let that resonate with you for a little bit. The people around you, how do you know that they truly love you? Can you see that on a consistent basis, right? Not just what you feel, because sometimes our feelings can be inconsistent. Sometimes our feelings or emotions can betray you. You may feel something that it may not actually be there. So when you take a self-inventory about the things around you, whether your romantic love or your family love or your spiritual love, right, or your friendship love, is it truly that? Are those relationships truly something that you can draw love from? And more often than not, we get ourselves in trouble, right? Because a lot of us struggle with that last one that I talked about, which is self-love, right? So we tend to want to go out and get that from other places because traditionally, right, therapy would say that through attachment theory, the foundation of our identity and what we think about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, our self-confidence, our self-worth, our value starts with our parents and our family and that context. And so for a lot of us, if we didn't get that type of love growing up from our biological parents or our parents or the people who took care of us or the people we lived with, then we struggle on an internal basis, on the inside, about how much love do we deserve, how much are we worth, how much are we cared for. So we can get ourselves in trouble because we're looking for other people outside of who we are to validate us, to make us feel that type of love. But that's a problem. That can be very problematic, right? If you're looking for somebody else to give you something, that can get us in a lot of trouble because potentially that person is wanting to use your search for love, right, against you for whatever reason, because they have their own ulterior motive. It happens a lot in relationships and that romantic love where we're looking for somebody else to tell us that we're worthy or we're good enough. But in turn, they're telling us what we want to hear, not because they care about us, but because they want to use us as a means to an end. Does that make sense? So sometimes we get in these codependent relationships where we need love. We're looking for love outside because we didn't get it from the family. We didn't get it necessarily from friends. We don't have that spiritual foundation. We didn't get it from there. So we turn to romantic love outwardly for people to fill up those other buckets. However, there's one challenge, there's one problem, is that romantic love cannot fill up a spiritual love bucket. It cannot fill up your friendship love bucket. It cannot fill up your family love bucket, right? And most importantly, it cannot fill up your self-love bucket. And so what I want to offer for you guys as we move towards Valentine's Day, love and being cute and romantic and flowers and candles, all those things are important. They're meaningful. Those are good things to have in order to build and continue to maintain a loving relationship. But I would offer that while we're working on those things outside of us, there's some internal love buckets, components, aspects of ourselves as human beings that I would need you to evaluate. Check on yourself, check in on yourself, right? Are you providing, are you giving yourself love, or are you giving it to other people, hoping that they give it back to you? And that's a dangerous exchange. If you're overgiving, overcompensating, doing all you can, breaking your back for somebody else, hoping that they give you the same energy back. And life doesn't work that way, right? People don't always give you the same energy that you give them. So if you're not in a relationship where somebody's giving you the same effort, love, attention, kindness, energy, then guess what? That relationship may not be in a loving dynamic anymore. And maybe you need to start thinking about, okay, what am I giving up in order to be in this relationship? Am I giving up myself? Am I giving up my spiritual love? Am I giving up my family love? Right? What am I doing? What is it costing me? Right? What's the cost for being in a relationship that's not kind, loving, compassionate? So those are all things to think about. And so I'm just offering this as a little bit of information to you guys that, hey man, this is a wonderful time. Please make sure you reach out to the people that you love and care about, not just your romantic partners or your married spouse who you marry, right, or who you're dating, but think about the bigger sense of love, right? Are you loving on the people around you who truly care about you and who truly got your back, right? As a Black community, we have to now start to evaluate these things that are better for us and then establish healthy boundaries with people whom we're connected to, but we may not be really for sure if they're for us, if they're about us, if they're loving and kind and supportive like we need them to be. And so this is an opportunity. Here we go. We started this conversation here. What do you think? This definition of love, different types of love. I gave you 4, and it's actually 5, right? Because it's romantic love, the one that we talk about all the time, Valentine's Day, love with your bae, your boo, right? So there are 5 technically, but I gave you 4. The 5th one is the romantic part, right? And then what about the 2 things that love is not, right? Love is not necessarily a feeling. It's a choice. I choose to love you in spite of, because of how much I care about you. Love is not just a noun, right? The second thing, it's a verb, it's action. So you should be able to see it, right? You should be able to hear it, be able to touch it in some ways. And if you can't hear it or see it, then maybe that's not love that somebody's claiming to give you, right? So those are 2 litmus tests to verify and for you to think about, is this what you're feeling? Is this what you're thinking about? Is this what you're going to? Because it's not always a feeling, it's choice. And then more importantly, it's not just a thing, not just a noun, something you give away, it's action. Somebody has to be doing something in order to show you how much they love you and care about you. And if you can't see it, then that means what you're feeling is not love, it's something else. And we got to reevaluate. And then lastly, hey, listen, we got to make sure that we're not going out or looking out for validation and love outside of ourselves romantically until we can first what? Love ourselves.